Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Morehouse and I like to talk about all things money on this channel. And today is a very special day. Why? Because today is my birthday. And I'm happy about it, but I also hate my birthday because who likes getting older? Especially once you've hit the big 35, in which you are now mid-30s and closer to 40 than you are 30, and all 20-year-olds will now think you're old. So that's fun. Yay. Happy birthday to me. But we're not gonna get into a negative mindset. We're not gonna mope today. This is all about positivity and talking about something that I love to talk about, which is money and personal finance. And so for this video, I want to share the 35 money lessons that I've learned by the time I hit 35. Okay, so I know 35 money lessons sounds like a lot of money lessons, but been around for a while, so I've got a lot of things to say. Okay, so number one, honestly, this isn't like in sequence of importance, this is just how I wrote it, but number one money lesson that I learned, which I would say is like my number one, is to automate everything. So if you haven't read it already, make sure to read The Automatic Millionaire. It is like the go-to classic personal finance book. It was one of the first books that I read when I was getting to personal finance back in my 20s and changed my life. Yeah, just the idea of automating my bills, my savings, my investments, automating everything so I don't have to manually do that much has saved me so much money, has grown my wealth so much quicker, has just made my life a lot easier. So a big tip is to automate everything. Number two, live within or below your means. Now, I say especially too, if you're watching this and in your 20s or you're just finishing high school and going into university, live as cheaply as you can. Live below your means. Live like that broke student for as long as you can throughout your 20s. You will thank yourself when you're in your 30s. That doesn't mean you have to live on ramen noodles and have no fun for a decade. That's not what I'm saying. You can have some balance, you can have some fun, but live within your means because, you'll be saving so much more, you'll be paying off debt, you're gonna just, hustle throughout your 20s to kind of get to a better position. Once you enter your 30s, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be so glad that you did all that work. Because remember, you have so much more time and flexibility and just like energy in your 20s compared to your 30s, so take advantage of that. Number three, don't put anything on your credit card that you cannot immediately pay off right away with cash you have in your bank account. This was actually a lesson that I learned in middle school from a French professor. I don't know why, but it is ingrained in my mind. In French class, he was talking about credit cards. I think he was going through something and needed to vent. I don't know. But it was such great advice, even though I was in middle school. Don't ever put anything on credit that you cannot afford to pay back, because ultimately that will lead you into debt. And we do not want to be in debt. It is not fun to be in debt. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Don't put anything on your credit card that you can't afford to pay back right away. Number four, and this has proven to be true time and time again in my life and so many other people's lives, your emergency fund should be your number one priority. Your number one savings goal should be having that fully funded emergency fund. Now that could look like 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. If you're self-employed like myself, I would say increase that to maybe 9 or 12 months because, things can kind of get dicey. I mean, I was really freaking out this time last year with the pandemic. So thank God everything kind of worked itself out, but it's just so important to have that, money stashed away in a high interest savings account in case there is an emergency, because although we don't like to think of bad things happening, they happen. They happen all the freaking time. And there's so many times in my life where I'm like, oh, thank God I have this money set aside for this situation, because if not, I would be in debt. So make sure, if you do not have a fully funded emergency fund, to make that your number one priority. Number five, if you're juggling multiple debts, so that could look like credit card debt, line of credit, student debt, whatever the case is, and you feel super overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, there are 2 debt repayment strategies. You should just choose one of them. So there's debt avalanche and the debt snowball. I have made a video on this, so make sure to go check it out. Pick a debt repayment strategy that works the best for you. Honestly, I think debt snowball is pretty much the most popular one. So if that, really speaks to you, then just go ahead and do it. But on top of creating a debt repayment plan, another great thing, so you don't feel alone, you actually stay accountable and just feel like this is actually something I could possibly do, join some sort of online debt repayment community. There's some that are just hashtags on Instagram. There's Facebook groups dedicated to debt repayment. Find an online community where you see other people doing the exact same thing as you, going through the exact same emotions. It will make the process of paying off debt so much easier, less lonely, and it'll just keep you motivated throughout the whole process. Number 6, just because you're still at the bank that your parents set you up at all those years ago when you were a child does not mean you have to stay there. If you are paying monthly bank fees, those can add up so quickly and is honestly, in my opinion, a big waste of money. So don't just bank at where you're used to banking or because that's where your parents bank and you just never thought about it. Take a look at what monthly fees you're paying, and if you're paying any kind of fee, to consider moving to a no-fee bank. On top of this, number 7, make sure to get the highest interest possible on your savings accounts. And typically, that is going to be going through one of the online banks. I have a blog post and a video about this. The video is a bit older, so check out the blog post that is the most recently updated on all the online banks and high interest savings accounts in Canada, so make sure to check that out. But if you are getting 0.05% from your bank, that's not okay. You're losing money because inflation is higher than that. And although we're in this low interest environment, so you're not going to earn a ton of high interest, there's still some banks that are offering higher interest than some of the big banks. So make sure to check out what is your interest rate that you're earning on your savings account. And if it's not very good, look elsewhere. And number 8, because this is honestly in response to all the questions I usually get when I talk about switching to an online bank for higher interest or no fees, online banks are not less safe than the big banks. I hear this all the time. What if they go bankrupt? What's really, really important is to know, is that bank CDIC insured? The Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation will make sure that you don't lose all your money in case of bank failure. And guess what? Online banks can fail, big banks can fail. Any bank is at risk to fail. What's important to know is if you are banking with an institution that is CDIC insured, make sure to check that out. Again, I also have a video on that, so I'm going to link it in the description of this video so you can check it out. Number 9, and this is something I hear actually quite often, you can switch banks and keep some of your banking products at your original bank. So I know a lot of people are kind of scared to move to an online bank if they've been with one of the big banks for a long time because they have a credit card there or a line of credit or a mortgage or some other kind of banking products, and they're afraid they'll have to give those up if they move to this online bank. Yeah, no, that's not true at all. You can have banking products at so many different places without having to have a checking and a savings account and have that as your day-to-day bank. So for example, I use one bank as my day-to-day banking. I also use EQ Bank for my savings accounts, but I have credit cards at lots of different banks. I have credit cards at Scotiabank, at BMO, some other places. I can't remember all the credit cards I have. And I also have a mortgage with a different institution and some other banking products at other banks. So you do not have to have everything at one bank. You can have different products at different institutions. So don't feel like you're stuck at the place you're at. Number 10, when you're looking for a mortgage, I would probably recommend using a mortgage broker. It is one of the best decisions that I ever made, and here's why. If you go directly to the bank, they can only sell you their mortgage products. They can't shop around for you and show you what other banks have. The benefit of using a mortgage broker is they can shop around so many different lenders, some that you may not even consider, and find the best rate for you based on, your credit score and some other criteria. But the great thing is they will only ding your credit score once. I used a mortgage broker. I was really happy with my experience. So if you are thinking about getting a mortgage, think about also using a mortgage broker. Number 11 is to invest as soon as possible. And why I say that is it's very important to prioritize that emergency fund and prioritize paying off your high interest debt. But if those are taken care of, start investing as soon as possible. And in my biased opinion, the best way to invest is in a portfolio of low-cost index ETFs. If you want to know more about that, I have a full course about what that means and how to actually do it. It is called Wealth Building Blueprint for Canadians. I will include a link in the description for this video so you can take a look. Number 12, investing should be boring because we're not playing a game here. We are trying to build wealth. We're not gambling. We are literally trying to save enough for retirement. So in my opinion, investing should be boring. If it seems too exciting, that might be a red flag. If you're getting investment advice from Reddit, that also might be a red flag. Investing is not about getting rich quick. In my opinion, it should be about getting rich slowly, but also getting rich eventually. So investing should be boring. That is number 12. Number 13, don't invest in anything you do not understand. This is a big reason why when I made my Bitcoin video, I made sure to say, I'm not telling you or I'm not advising you to invest in this because of course, as soon as I made that video a couple weeks later, guess what happened? It dipped quite a bit. Did I lose money? Yes, I did. So I did invest in something I understood. I do understand crypto. I'm not an expert, but I do understand it. But the other part of that is don't ever invest more money than you're willing to lose in something that is speculative, like cryptocurrency. So make sure to never invest more money than you're willing to lose and don't invest in anything you don't understand. Number 14, and this is what I call the magic money trifecta, which I know sounds super cheesy, but that is what I call it. If I could go back in time, this is something that I would do. I would track my spending every month, I would track my net worth every month, and I would keep a budget. Now, I always had a budget, but I never tracked any of my real numbers, so I didn't really actually have any data to back up if I was ever on budget. There was a time that I used Mint, and it was sort of helpful, but now I just use spreadsheets, which I highly recommend. You can check out all the budget spreadsheets I have on my shop page, so make sure to check it out. They also have a bunch of video tutorials on how to actually use them, but basically a budget is what you want to happen to your money. It is your guide, your guiding light, so to speak. Tracking your spending is all about keeping yourself accountable and being able to compare your real numbers to the numbers you want to happen in your budget. And then the net worth component is all about tracking your progress in terms of building your wealth and obviously paying down your debt. It is a great motivator, especially as you see your net worth grow and grow and grow every single month and then year over year. It is that huge motivation to prove that having a budget, tracking your spending, making smart money decisions actually works because you have the data to back it up. Like I've mentioned, I think in previous videos, I've been tracking my spending and my net worth since 2017, and it was the best decision I could have made. It really doesn't take that much time, like a few hours per month, just to have all that information. But now I can look back all those years and see, where did I start and where am I right now? And wow, look at the progress I've made. This stuff works, let's keep going. Number 15, there is no right or wrong way to budget. There are literally hundreds of different ways you could budget. I have my particular way that I developed with my spreadsheets. I use it myself. I work with clients and we do that. But there are so many other people out there that have their own methods and they probably work too. So I personally don't have like an opinion on other people's strategies because if it works, then it works. So what you need to do is, see what the options are out there, try out a few, and stick with the one that really actually gets you excited and that you'll actually want to do. I think for me, I don't really like budgeting apps because they're too automated. I need something a little bit manual and also something that I can own the information. I don't really like third-party app owning all of my financial information. So for me, spreadsheets work, but I know a lot of people that really like writing things down in like a, binder or something like that. So it just goes to show that there's lots of different methods for lots of different people because we're all different and sometimes our needs are different. I like things that are digital. Some people like things that are more tangible. So just see what else is out there and then choose the right method for you. Number 16, don't spend a lot of money on your wedding. I think looking back, we really didn't spend a ton of money on our wedding. I think in total it was about $15,000. And that is the most we could have afforded, quite honestly, but looking back, I'm glad we didn't spend $1 more because as much as our wedding was lovely, it is one day. It is one day out of your life. If I could go back, I probably would have, quite honestly, and this is what I tell so many people, I probably would have eloped because we'd saved so much money. The day would have been a little bit more personal and intimate. When you have a wedding and I had 70 plus people, it's more about the people at the wedding than it is you as the couple. So I don't know. I just, when I see people spending like $50,000, I mean, if you're rich, I mean, do whatever the heck you want. But if you're a regular person like me, I'd say save your money, have a wedding that is like small and intimate, and then save that money on something that's a little bit more, fun and exciting, like a honeymoon or a trip or a home down payment or paying off debt. Something that you can look back on and be like, I'm so glad we spent our money in that way. Number 17, as soon as you have some sizable assets and or once you have dependents or a spouse or, a common law partner, make a will. You can go through a lawyer. There's lots of different software programs you can use now, but there's so many people that don't make a will, and you do not want to die intestate. It is not a good situation. I do have a video about making a will using an app called Willful, but basically don't delay making a will. It is so, so important and very easy to do, and you'll be glad that you did it. Well, you'll be dead, but your dependents and your family will be glad you did it. So make sure to put that on your to-do list. Now, in kind of conjunction with this, number 18, once you also have dependents or a partner, make sure to get life insurance. Now, you may have some life insurance through your employer, but it's important to remember as soon as you cease to work for that employer, so you get fired or laid off or you quit, you no longer get that coverage. So it's important to have your own private life insurance. I personally like term life insurance. It's much cheaper and you can have it for, a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year term. And the real idea about life insurance is you want to cover the most expensive years of your life. So if you are leaving behind dependents, you can, pay off, some debts like your mortgage, and you can provide for whoever you're leaving behind. But then at a certain point in your life, when you're like 60s or 70s, it's okay if that term ends, because most likely and hopefully you'll have amassed enough assets that if you pass away, then your dependents can sell off some of your assets to pay for, education or the mortgage or whatever they need to. Number 19, your credit score is not your financial health score. It is literally just a score on how responsible you've been with credit in the past. I see so many people online bragging about their credit scores as if it's their net worth. And I'm like, it doesn't actually matter. Like, it's good to have a good credit score, don't get me wrong, but it is not a score that says this is how good I am at money or this is how much money I have. So don't obsess about your credit score. Just be smart in terms of, being responsible with your credit. If you want to know more about that, I do have some videos. I also have a credit best practices checklist you can download, which I will link in the description for this video, but don't obsess over your credit score. It's actually not as important as lots of people make it out to be. Number 20, and this is something that I kick myself for never doing, always negotiate your salary before accepting a job offer. I only did this kind of once, and it wasn't exactly like a normal salary negotiation. Basically, well, this actually happened to me twice. Once I got a job, I was only there for a week because it was terrible, but I got a job, they promised one salary, and then I looked at my employment paperwork, and it actually had a different salary. And they're like, oh yeah, no, if you stay here for this length of time, then we'll bump you up to the salary that we actually initially promised you. I quit that job after a week because it just had a bad vibe and don't have any regrets. But there's this other job that I was there for about 6 or 7 months. And they promised me a certain salary. Then when we were in the negotiation job offer situation, they kind of deducted like $5,000 from what we initially talked about. And I said, because at the time, luckily I did have a job already. I said, I'm not going to work here unless we do it for the amount that we initially talked about. And then they did bump me up to that amount. That is the only experience I have in negotiating salary before accepting a job. And I definitely wasn't good at it. So make sure when you are on the job hunt to do some research. There's some great kind of career experts out there that have, blogs and video channels and stuff like that. But they will always kind of say the same, always negotiate, because they're never going to give you their best, offer right off the bat. There's always going to be some room to negotiate. So do your research and have some data to back up being like, well, actually there's jobs that are, in this kind of bracket. Typically the salary range is this. So you have some evidence to kind of back up your negotiation why you want a specific salary, but don't ever just accept whatever they give you. You will regret it. Like every time I've ever accepted a job offer. Number 21, participate in your employer's pension plan or group RSP, or if you're American, your 401k. So many people don't take advantage of this, and especially if you are getting matching contributions from your employer, that is getting free money. So there's so many people working for an employer that are not getting more money from that employer than they could. So don't leave that money on the table. If your work does have a pension plan or a group RSP, make sure to participate. Okay, number 22 is you'll earn a higher salary if you switch employers compared to if you just stay at the same place and wait for a promotion and raise. This isn't just my own personal experience. This is it is my personal experience, but it's also, there's so much data to back up this claim. So if you are sticking around and you're like, no, if I just put in another year, maybe I'll get a raise, maybe it's time to start looking at other options. Every single time that I have switched employers, my salaries increased by $10,000 to $20,000 each. You are unlikely to get such a big raise. I mean, I'm not saying you can't. I've never gotten that, that's for sure. I've never gotten a promotion and I've never gotten a raise. That is saying something, which is also why I started my own company, because I don't want to play that game anymore. So if you want to earn more money, most likely you'll need to switch employers. And I know I'm going to get some comments about millennials and how they're so unreliable and unloyal to their employers. If you just paid us more money, we would stay. Number 23, there is no shame in getting a second job or a side hustle. I am so glad I've always had, not anymore because now I just run my own company, but I have always had, when I've been working for a company, a side hustle or a second job. So when I first started out, finished university, I worked a job during the day, and at night and on weekends, I was a teleprompter operator for the news. I did that for 3.5 years on top of my day job. Then after that, I kind of started making some money from my blog, and then I added a podcast, and then was eventually able to turn that side hustle into my full-time gig. But if I didn't ever try to find more money outside of my day job, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I know I wouldn't. I'm doing a totally different career, but even just talking about money, I wouldn't be able to afford so many of the things that have helped me in my life, like going back to school, getting more credentials to kind of beef up my resume, just have more money to travel or just to enjoy some of the nicer things in life. So there's no shame in having a second job or a side hustle. There's just gain in the form of more money. Okay, we've got 10 more. This is number 20. No, wait, 11. Oh my God, I'm 35, not 34 anymore. Okay, number 24. You will most likely be the poorest you will be in your life in your 20s. Because you're just starting out. Everything is expensive. You're not earning a ton of money. You probably have some debt from student loans. It's not an easy ride, your 20s. So give yourself some grace and be patient. As someone who is now 35, I can attest to the fact that it does get better. So don't give up. Just realize your 20s can be a grind. It gets better. Number 25, shame has no place in your life, but also your financial life. So if you feel like you're getting shamed for whatever reason, like you're not earning enough, you're not spending your money in a certain way, or you're getting advice from some of the money gurus that are just super negative, what you need to do is just get them out of here, because shame will just stop you in your tracks and make it even harder to actually make a change in your life for the better. So if there's any kind of negative influences that are making you feel bad about yourself and not good enough, or you feel like you're always comparing yourself to them and it's just not helping you, it's just really being a big detractor and making you get into a kind of a dark space, we need to get those people out of there. So unfollow, mute, block, whatever you gotta do, get them out of there. Number 26, and this is like a term that I heard because I'm rewatching the show Mad Men. Don't count other people's money, count your own. Too often, we're looking at other people and wondering, how do they afford that? I wonder how much they make. We need to stop counting other people's money because it has nothing to do with us, and it actually doesn't, it just is basically a big energy suck. Instead, focus on you and your financial situation. Count your own money and make choices that are going to better you, and just ignore the noise. It doesn't matter what other people are doing with their money, just focus on you. Number 27, don't let others dictate how you spend your money. So many other people are also, counting other people's money and then trying to influence them to spend their money in a certain way. It is your money. You're working for it. You're earning it. It is totally up to you and you alone how you wish to spend it. So don't let anyone influence you to do a certain thing because it's not their money. So, if you spend all your money, they're going to be just fine. So don't let that happen. Focus on you. Once again, don't let others dictate how you spend your money. Number 28, don't confuse people's opinions for facts. And this is something that's so important to remember, as anyone can share anything on the internet, especially when it comes to financial advice. People are sharing their opinions, and a lot of the stuff that it sounds like advice, and I'm even going to say this, especially on YouTube, you got to be careful what information you actually take to heart and even use in your own financial life. Just be careful. Do your own research, do your own due diligence, and just stay aware. So kind of with that, number 29 is money is learnable. I hear too often people say, I'm bad with money, or I just don't know this stuff. I didn't learn this stuff in school, and I get it. The great thing is, though, it is not rocket science. It really isn't that hard. And anyone who makes it seem more complicated than it is, I would be very, cautious about that, because it really shouldn't be so complex that it's just impossible to digest. Typically, the people that are making it sound complicated, they usually have a reason behind it. Maybe it's something that they want to sell, or they're just bad translators. And that's something that is kind of the main thing that I try to do, is to translate some of these kind of complex theories or pieces of information or money management techniques into real people language so we can all understand it. So just know, even though money may seem kind of intimidating, it is learnable. Again, my background is I went to film school. Not at all what I thought I would be doing now. And here I am, having this company that's all about financial education. If I can go from being enrolled in a experimental film school to where I'm now, it just goes to show that anyone can learn this stuff. It really, really isn't that difficult, so you can learn it too. Number 30, you need to set financial goals. Without setting really specific goals, and if you want to have a good technique, I love SMART goals. Make them specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based. Set goals, because without goals, you don't really have, kind of a roadmap to what you're doing with your money. So just take some time, have a piece of paper or use, a Word doc and write out, what do we want to do with our money? We or you or I, whatever. And really be clear about your why, your purpose with your money. That'll actually get you kind of excited to do the other things I talked about, like crafting a budget and tracking your spending and net worth. But so important to have really specific and clear financial goals. Number 31, don't sacrifice today for tomorrow. And this may sound a little odd, but it's because especially all the information I was getting in my 20s was all about cut back, spending's bad. It was very kind of negative. And although, yes, I believe in living within your means and, you can't have it all, I don't believe in the idea that you have to suffer, today so one day you can have a better life. I think you can have both. And sometimes that's really just about being very clear about how are we spending our money today. And so I do believe sometimes you do have to cut back, but it's not about cutting back on things that give you pleasure. It's just really being specific on what are my values? How can I spend my money within my value system and also within, how much money I earn. So you don't need to have just the worst time, for, years and years and years, just so you can have a better life. You can enjoy the journey along the way. You don't have to sacrifice today for tomorrow. It's about creating a good system and then just really realizing what brings me joy. And you may realize a lot of the best things in life are free. Number 32, money is just a tool. It is not the answer or the solution. I know a lot of our problems, it may seem like if I just had money, I wouldn't have this problem. And sometimes, yes, if you have no shelter, if you don't have any of your basic needs met, yeah, money can solve that. But for, people that are, not really experiencing those struggles, I feel like sometimes we still pin, if I just had more money, then I wouldn't feel this unhappy, or I wouldn't be, whatever the case may be. Money is just a tool. So it's usually not that money is what you need. Like, it's just the tool to get what you actually need. So that could be, I need more comfort, security. I just need to be in a safer space. Really just dig a bit deeper into what do you actually need? And then how can money be used as a tool to get there? But ultimately, if your goal is just to get a bunch of money because you think it'll make you happy, spoiler alert, it will not, because money doesn't actually buy you happiness. There are so many people who have a ton of money that are not happy. So it's really about getting clear on what will make you happy, what do you actually want, and then how can we use money to get there. Number 33 is to never stop learning and to always look for new opportunities to grow, whether that's in your life, your career, or in your financial life. Obviously, I love to learn and I like to share what I learn. It is my passion. I love to talk about money and learning about this stuff. And so when I kind of talked about, money is so learnable, that's the thing. It's something that will take time to get more comfortable with and to learn. You should also be excited about that, because something that may have seemed so impossible to understand, eventually you're going to have that moment where it just clicks and you're like, oh my God, I get it. That's not that hard. That's one of my honestly favorite things when learning is to it's like you're cracking a nut that's like impossible to break open, and it finally breaks open and it's just like, ah. So remember that, learning is kind of a lifelong thing. So just be open to it, just embrace it, and you'll actually realize it's actually pretty cool because you'll never run out of things to learn. Number 34, we're almost done. Your self-worth is not connected to your net worth. I think a lot of people, everyone does. We're all human. And I think we all somehow connect how much money we have or how much money we owe to how valuable we are as a person. And I've got to tell you right now, nah. It is not true. Self-worth is not connected to your net worth. So get rid of that idea, put it away. It's garbage. It is crap. It's not true. And to wrap things up with number 35, my last money lesson is your 30s are so much better than your 20s. This is something that should really, I think, help you if you're in your 20s and you're just like having a rough go, because I've been there. I remember it's not easy in your 20s. It's a grind. Your 30s are so much better. You're more settled in your career. You're probably earning more money. You've paid off a lot more debt. You have more of a sense of self. You have more confidence. You just, I think, have a bit more of an idea of what the heck you're doing. I also want to say, if you are in your 20s and watching this, you do not need to have everything figured out by 30. I remember when I turned 30 and I realized, oh, life goes on. I don't know why in my mind it was like, not that life stopped, but I always just thought you have to settle and everything kind of ends at 30. That is not true at all. Life continues, and actually it gets better in your 30s. So I'm telling you, I'm 35, and yes, it's something that I'm still digesting, but overall, I love being in my 30s. I'm actually kind of looking forward to getting into my 40s. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe we're not there yet, but we're gonna get there. So anyways, that is my 35 money lessons by the time I turned 35. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If you liked this video, make sure to like it. If you have a comment or want to share one of your money lessons you've learned along the way in your own life, make sure to comment below. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more videos coming out very soon, and I'm very excited about them. So thanks again for watching, and with that, I will see you in my next video.